They gave the okay to shell out $700 billion in taxpayer money to help bail out the ailing Wall Street financial firms, but now leaders of both parties are voicing concerns about how the money's being spent. They're worried that billions of dollars are possibly being used on things that like executive bonuses and raises, and they could be. But was the government unconstitutionally allowed to spend our money on the bailout in the first place? Could they do it under the Constitution? According to the writing of an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today, which is owned by the parent company of this network, which was written by Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napalitano, presidents and lawmakers in the United States have sort of played with the Constitution for years, almost since day one, as a matter of fact. Meet the judge. He's with us now. None of this constitutional in your estimation?
No, in my estimation it's not, and I'm not surprised because, as you indicated, going all the way back, I was starting actually with John Adams. Washington was pretty faithful to it. It was brand new. He thought it should be interpreted literally. The Congress and the President have gradually expanded and expanded and expanded the things they regulate. It's very difficult for you or me or anybody watching us now to find something within the immediate range of where they are that is not regulated by the federal government, even though it's not mentioned in the Constitution. When Secretary Paulson went running to the Congress last month saying the sky is going to fall if you don't give me the $750 billion, the constitutional argument was not made. The only argument that
you made it right here on the set.
Well, you and I made it. It wasn't made on the floor of the House of the Senate. The only argument was how much money should we give to him and what kind of controls should we have on it. Now that they gave him the $750, and instead of loaning it to banks with conditions on the loan, like take this $25 billion and loan it out to people, to businesses and other banks,
like they did in Great Britain,
right? Instead, the banks, and this is what the congressmen are upset about this morning, the banks took the money and paid vendors and creditors and people to whom they owed money. They took tax dollars and used it for their own private welfare, forbidden by the Constitution.
But as set up in the rules of this lending operation, it's not forbidden at all.
Correct.
In fact, they could just leave it in their banks forever and ever, amen, and never lend it out to anyone ever, and that would be just fine under these lack of rules.
Because the Secretary did not loan the money to the banks as he told the Congress he would. When he loans the money, he can put a condition on the loan. Instead, he bought stock, and when he buys stock, the federal government is simply another shareholder, something it's not permitted to do under the Constitution. But as a shareholder with no vote, it can say nothing to management.
Now, there was a quote that you found particularly interesting that the producers have ready for the screen.
The Constitution was written to make sure, I think that they're going to put it up on the screen. The Constitution was written in order to make sure that as the result of it, contracts would be enforced, and risk would be real, and risk would be meaningful, and risk would have consequences, and private property would be sacrosanct. But the people in Washington don't recognize any of this. They took over AIG just as easily and painlessly as Hugo Chavez took over the oil companies in Venezuela.
We made that comparison back in the day, and you would have thought that you would just burn the country down, you know, with torches running around it. But that's exactly what happened.
Right.
And in the end, now we're in charge of insurance companies. We own a bunch of worthless mortgage papers with securities that are never going to pay off anything. Most likely, they seem now to be admitting.
Soon we will own many banks. And this morning, the Wall Street Journal reports that the merger between Chrysler and General Motors is intended to turn General Motors into a bank, so that Chrysler will produce the cars and General Motors can get the tens of billions from tax dollars to finance the cars.
And make no mistake, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
The $50 to $60 trillion credit default swap market, which is basically a series of side bets, has no regulations and no cash to back it up, and it's coming home to roost. They don't want to talk about it.
No, they don't. I challenge federal courts to find this unconstitutional.
Yeah. Judge Napolitano, good to see you. Thank you.